Welcome back to the Nutrimedical Report. One of my favorite guests is Bruce McKeeman from Hyperbaric Dives. I usually, as I say, you don't have to, just like with Dr. Fred Graves, have to learn the law. You learn procedure and rules of evidence. The same thing applies in medicine. You learn principles, and you learn what I call key products and key technologies, and you can heal. For example, the power of ones: oxygen, Nutrimeds, energetic and scalar technologies, and stem cells. Ones, O-N-E-S. And right at the top of the list is oxygen. In fact, after my show today, I'm going to get in my chamber for probably 45 minutes to an hour. I get at 1.3 atmospheres, put on the oxygen concentrator 6 or 7% more, put on my little ozonator machine, which, by the way, we have new ones coming. They're going to be a fraction of the cost of the ones that were at Go Healthy Next. These are a fraction of the cost and are better for generating ozone, which you can hook up to the compressor of the chamber. It's amazing. With Henry's Law, it doesn't irritate your airways, sterilizes your body, turns off inflammation, and heals. The power of oxygen can heal any health condition. There is no health condition where mild hyperbaric oxygen will not speed healing and increase the extent of the healing faster than anything else. Now, it doesn't substitute for the nutrients or the signal, like micropulse signal or the Nutrimeds you need. But when you add oxygen at a compressed rate, even treatment for toxicity of 100% oxygen or long-standing past history of the bends where you get some damage done, the treatment is mild hyperbaric oxygen. That's how important this is. Tell us what you've discovered with the use of mild hyperbaric oxygen, why it's even better than 100% oxygen, 3 atmospheres.
Well, it's safer because you're not dealing with 100% oxygen, the flammability issues, the high pressure issues. And the reason they use 100% oxygen is not because it's more of a benefit. It's to prevent nitrogen buildup going to those extreme depths of 2, 3, and 4 atmospheres. At mild hyperbarics at 1.3 ATA, there is no danger of nitrogen being absorbed to the point that you'd have any issues. So you can run a safe 26, 27% oxygen, according to Boyle's law, and with Henry's law, it dissolves into the tissues. So you're getting the same benefit without any of the risk.
Yeah, that's kind of neat, isn't it, that you can actually do the same benefit. And again, I tell people, I said, the best way to think of it is think of gene induction. And this is related to hypobaric therapy. I had on my program a scientist doing his PhD, a medical doctor, who is a middle-aged athlete, and he actually went to did what we call the Ironman competition. And you wouldn't think this guy's really big. He's like 5'9". But they developed this hypobaric chamber that's the opposite, that stimulates mitochondria by bringing you from sea level to 30,000 feet in 4 seconds. And it makes you make mitochondria like crazy. Well, the same thing with your hyperbaric oxygen therapy. It stimulates stem cells, the pressure changes stimulate mitochondria, it turns off inflammation, so your C-reactor protein and your Pi-1 levels drop. It sterilizes your body, it gets rid of pathogens because oxygen gets rid of pathogens. It stimulates the cells to regenerate tissues. That's why I tell people, if you've got peripheral neuropathy, cardiac congestive heart failure, organic brain damage, retinal problems. We had the people that were in our clinics in Denver reversing retinitis pigmentosa. People don't understand. I don't know of a health condition, head to toe, from baldness to peripheral neuropathy, that can't be gotten better by adding hyperbaric oxygen therapy. There isn't one. That's why, do you have a shower in your home? Do you have a stove? Where's your hyperbaric chamber? I think anybody who wants to maintain their health, not just elite athletes, but a person if they get an illness when they're younger or middle-aged and they don't want to get sicker and they're older and they've gone through terrible things like chemo and radiation, you have to have a mild hyperbaric chamber if you want to get further healing, but you have to have the right Nutrimeds and the right signal there. You have to have a mild hyperbaric chamber if you want to increase the extent and the speed of healing. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I want to hear more about this baldness cure. If you've seen my picture, you know I need it.
Well, actually, I'll tell you what we use, and I'll give you the top 4 things. Number 1, Recidival Hair Tonic, which reverses the hair follicles. Number 2, Collagen Max. Number 3, Her Majesty's Royal Jelly that makes pro-collagen in your body. And number 4, Mountain Red Velvet. Open the capsule under the tongue, and we'll soon have the DR cap. You take all those 4 things and use Lumen Photon on the Nico setting on your scalp, and by the way, you are going to have a head of hair. Believe it or not.
That sounds really
all my brothers are balding, including my oldest son, and I have a full head of hair. And it's because I do these things that I'm not a bald as an eagle, because I got the name Deagle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us more about hyperbaric oxygen. I get so excited about about this technology. And, when I've checked out the chambers, and they've got big ones here, the University of California, San Diego, they got one that's like the size where they can wheel in 6 people on gurneys and kids and everybody, and they ram it up to 3 atmospheres for 100% oxygen. And the reason, and you said this before, they have to use oxygen because if they use nitrogen at 3 atmospheres, you'd get the bends, which is dangerous as hell. You use oxygen, by the way, and oxygen is extremely toxic at that atmospheric pressure. So if you're not, what we did in our clinic in Denver is we gave intravenous melatonin, by the way, which is the most powerful antioxidant you can take in your body besides polyphenol in our NutriDefense. The most powerful one your body makes is melatonin, which is a methylation byproduct of the tryptase and peroxidase enzymes in your brain and your peripheral tissues. And so when people take 100% oxygen, you don't get toxicity with mild oxygen therapy. You do with 100%. Interesting, eh?
Very interesting. And, as you were asking me about hyperbarics, what got interested me in it is the Earth pre-flood was a hyperbaric chamber. And people didn't get sick. They lived into their hundreds. And we said, let's tap into some of that. So that's how we got started with hyperbarics. And the more we learned, the more we saw that it is truly something that can address many, many different illnesses, not by attacking the illness, but by attacking the properties that the body has itself and enabling those to attack the illness. It enables your body to act as it's supposed to when it's being attacked. It's like the reserves feeding the soldiers.
Yeah. Right. So in other words, it's the same as Fred Graves talked about with learning to become a pro se litigant expert or a legal consumer expert. The same was here. What we're teaching on this show, and we do with the book Dr. U and the wellness conditions, we're teaching people to be experts on principles and products. In other words, things that are going to make them a master at keeping their health up. Their doctor, for example, let's say they've been told, I'll give you an example. I had a gentleman who's a very prominent radio host, and I won't mention his full name. His first name is David. And he's in Texas. He's in liver failure. What I'm going to do with him is the power of ones. I want him to get a home oxygen hyperbaric chamber from you. I want him to get on our Nutrimeds to help stimulate and support the stem cells, just like preparing the soil like a good, as they say, Iowa farm boy. Prepare the soil so when you plant the seeds, they'll grow like crazy. I want to give scalar technology like micropulse and lumen photon and maybe X-Vitalizer. I want him to get the stem cells, and we're going to refer him to Stemedica to go to the Santa Clarita Clinic in Mexico, where he'll get mesenchymal stem cells that'll turn off the inflammation in his liver and restart him regenerating. He's in his 70s, it doesn't matter. He has 2 to 5% stem cells, but the problem is the inflammation. Those stem cells can't get turned on without the right signaling. I know how to do it using these resources like Stemedica in San Diego with their clinic in Mexico. So, when I see this gentleman, I'm going to use the power of ones. Oxygen, Nutrimeds, energetic technology, and stem cells. And he'll get his liver regenerated, and whether he won't live forever, but he's going to get his health restored.
That's excellent. And it's just a matter of having products that are easy to use, that are fun to use, that are comfortable to use. The best equipment in the world sitting in the corner of your living room isn't going to make you well. So that's why we made our chambers very ergonomic, so they were very comfortable to use.
And very affordable. You have the chambers now, and if they want to contact you, Bruce, your number is 612-325-8243, or they can go directly from our products page. We need to post up a banner up on the front so we can get you, so people will be able to find it even easier. But if you go to the products page, go to the link, or call 612-325-8243, and you ship everywhere on the planet, too. Everywhere on Earth. These are the best chambers, American-made, in the world. And I'll tell you, if you want to get better, you've got to use the power of ones. Oxygen, Nutrimeds, no substitutes, energetic scalar technology, and stem cells. And welcome back, and we are going to be joined in a second with Jay Newman on Silver 100. I want to explain the chemistry. When you put silver in an ionic state, it has remarkable properties. It is the only state in which silver can kill pathogens. It's the only state that will stimulate stem cells and increase what's called the NK killer cell activity to create superoxide anion radical that's 100 million degrees temperature. It's the only way that your body's T killer cells can actually kill pathogens. So those threefold amazing activities: number one, killing all pathogens; number two, stimulating stem cells; and the other thing about silver is it not only cleanses your body, it reduces what's called pyrotoxin load in your body, which increases your own body's response to produce what's called inflammatory cytokines. So when you start taking silver, whether you're brushing your teeth with silver or putting in your hydrofloss machine, whether you're spraying silver on a burn that you had just because you got in sunlight, or you got a thermal burn which speeds healing because it actually stimulates regeneration of tissues, whether you're taking it by mouth so that you can reduce and get rid of dysbiosis in your lower gut, or whether you're taking it orally so you can get rid of nanobacteria not only in your periodontal tissues but your arteries, Silver 100 is what I call the optimal cellular hygiene that's non-toxic. It's part of our eye protocol. So let's go over some of the chemistry, Jay, so people understand how this is a miracle supplement that needs to be used by everybody, even newborn babies. In fact, we used to use silver sulfadiazine and so on, drops and so on, into babies' eyes so they wouldn't get gonorrhea. What we should realize is that adults should be taking silver as part of their protocol along with Can-C and Vision Max and Cell Detox Glutathione and Neurogen. They should be taking silver as one of the first steps in eye care because it reduces the chances of getting things like toxoplasmosis, fungal infections in the canal of Schlemm, and pro-inflammatory stealth infections that can actually infect your eyeballs. People used to think eyeballs can't get infected. Yes, they can, and they can be infected with fungi, nanobacteria, mycobacteria, etc. And the eyeball is not immune. In fact, there was a movie out and a series on DirecTV called Monsters Inside Me. And if you ever saw a picture, and if you go online, people out there listening, go pull up toxoplasmosis inside the eye. Just go Google that little thing, and you go, look, I want pictures. Go to images.google.com, and you're going to freak. You're going to say, what? You mean that can grow my eye? Yes. And also, even this is for you, by the way, eye doctors. If you wonder why diabetics get intraocular hypertension, it's because their canals of Schlemm are inflamed. They're inflamed because of stealth pathogens growing in the recycling margin or limbus of the edge of the iris. So the canals of Schlemm are not sterile. They're constantly infected, and people that have high blood sugar are getting cross-glycation and have inflammatory cytokines going in their anterior eye or in their posterior eye, causing retinopathy. So if you don't want to get these things, from head to toe, literally inflammation, you should be on Silver 100. So, and by the way, don't take colloidal silver, nanoparticle silver. I've seen so many people, I don't even want to mention their names. These products are disgusting. You have to take gallons of it to be equivalent to just a couple sprays of Silver 100. Do not take gallons of it. You will then become a member of the Blue Man Troop in Las Vegas, or at least you should be able to apply for it because you're going to turn blue with the amount necessary to equivalent to Silver 100, which will not do that to you. It'll just kill the pathogens. And in fact, the dosages we recommend are 1/3 what the EPA recommends should be a healthy dosage of silver, which is a noble metal that should ordinarily be incorporated in our food by our veggies because it's part of our cellular hygiene. So, Jay, tell us about the chemistry.
Dr. Deagle, you got me worried, man. I'm going to have to get on the unemployment line soon because you're doing my job better than I do.
No, I don't think so. You're a master of the chemistry.
You really know your stuff. I have small investors, I have customers, I have friends that found me through you, and people can't speak highly enough about how incredibly knowledgeable you are on such a wide range of relevant subjects. And I just have to take a minute of airtime here to comment that I'm really, really, really impressed, if I may say so, in an humble, respectful way, of how incredibly well you understand the chemistry behind these little problems, why they work.
Well, I like to use self-deprecating. I'm using this now more frequently because I deserve it. Self-deprecating humor. I tell people I'm a sheepdog for God. I have the social graces slightly above a pet rock. But there's nothing like a year, the 6.5 decades almost of mania to make you impressive to other people who aren't manic. How's that?
Well, you're a walking encyclopedia that's constantly being renewed and refreshed and updated with the leading edge information, and I find that fascinating. As far as helping people understand the basics, and that's where it gets challenging, and the reason that these other companies get away with all this You say that the chemistry is disgusting. I find what's disgusting is their marketing, because they're just all over the map, laughing all the way to the bank. It takes advantage of the fact that the average consumer just doesn't, A, doesn't understand the chemistry, B, will trust anything any company says that's in the natural products field, and this field has really been overtaken by comedians, by circus clowns. I mean, there's more direct ways to say it, but that's a nice way of saying it. The bottom lines are really, really cut and dry. Any really leading-edge science will show a couple facts, and let's look at some authoritative sources. Nature magazine did a report about a year and a half ago on a study published in Science Translational Medicine. This is the real respected stuff in the scientific and medical community, those sources. Researchers from Boston University showed that when comparing in mice ionic silver to the most powerful antibiotics against the most strong virulent supergerms, the ionic silver was 5 times more effective than the most powerful antibiotics. Then there's another major study out of Rice University. People can just Google this stuff. Just do a search for the title of this study at Rice University. It's on their website. It's on R&D Magazine's website. It says ions, not particles, make silver toxic to bacteria. And they put it in vacuum environments, they put it in oxygen environments, and they realized the only reason, it's really well known now, the only reason colloidal silver works is because it has a tiny fraction, like 2%, 1 to 3% is in the ionic form of silver. The rest is useless inert metal. But the other thing they said, which is key in the article on R&D Magazine's website, the Rice University's website, is the head researcher said is what's needed is controlled release of silver ions. So whatever, one of these companies claims small pictures under the microscope of small particles. It's all done in their back room. There's nothing third party that'll ever corroborate those creative pictures. Very good marketing. They also say they have a huge percent of ions. Guess what? They don't, and it's all just good marketing. But even if they did, it's in the form of silver oxide, the little bit of silver ions, whatever silver, all colloidal silver, it's silver oxide, which will never release the silver ions in the body except an infinitesimal amount. So a tiny amount of their silver is bioactive ions, and a tiny amount of that ever gets released in the body. The reason Silver 100 is so infinitely beyond. The reason it's because it's all silver ions, and it has this controlled time release mechanism to get it in the body and pass the factors that would otherwise neutralize it, and it all gets released in the system. It's really simple.
And we're going to be talking to Tom Strader from MG12. Tom, are you there? We're working on it. I hear our board op telling us we're on our way to getting Tom. Tom knows he's going to be coming on. MG12 is one of our important topical companies, and I tell people we're working from the inside with all our Nutrimeds and other advanced technologies like Silver 100, Mountain Red Velvet, etc. We're working real hard with signal companies like Lumen Photon, X-Vitalizer that we get from China, which is amazing new technology, and MicroPulse. In fact, we'll have Dr. Bob Dennis on later this hour. But externally, you want to have transdermal minerals from the Dead Sea. There's 14 minerals there that are not present in any other seawater on Earth, but are present in all life forms. These transdermal minerals are going to regenerate your cellular function, express your genetics, detoxify your body, stop cardiac arrhythmias like atrial fibrillation, protect your brain from oxidative stress and polyneuropathy and vascular disease, and of course the essential oils in the what's called a healing body balm and the sports energy sprays. These are amazing. They have a whole range of cosmetic products, from under your arm deodorants, which I use, to their soap, to their hair shampoo, to the topical bath salts, including the bath oils. And I can tell you, every day, usually in the evening now, I used to sometimes do it in the morning, but it got me up too late, I will take a nice bath with the MG12 products. And I can tell you, you sleep like a baby. You don't have muscle cramps and pains. You regenerate your tissues. You transdermally absorb it overnight in your body once you've been laying in a bath for 20 minutes, half an hour. And I'll usually listen to a program that I like. For example, let's say I'm listening to a show on air, or I'm listening to music. I can think about ideas, and I can tell you the amazing amount of absorption of the transdermal nutrients from MG12 is just a miracle. I guess we're going to have to get our next guest, and then we'll maybe pop over and try to get Tom. In a moment, I'll give an alternative number. Let's get Dr. Bob Dennis on the program with our technology, the micropulse. Micropulse technology, by the way, is research from NASA. What they discovered was if you when the space station we had stem cell culture and they're passing over the poles, they noticed a 400% bump in the amount of growth of stem cells. So we talked about this before, the idea of signal and substance. The substance is the Nutrimeds. And please don't substitute and try to buy things from elsewhere and figure you're going to have equivalent because it sounds the same. You have no expertise out there, including if you're a health professional, to know better than I do what the substances are that are going to be optimal. And you can be a naturopath, you can be a medical doctor, you can even start off in some of these academies. But if you go to these meetings, which again, I usually don't go to them unless I'm giving a lecture, which I will be in Las Vegas in December, the meetings are populated with thousands of doctors that are just starting off. Going to 1 or 2 weekend meetings does not make you an expert in environmental, toxicological, or functional medicine. Decades of slugging it out and getting persecuted and going to research labs and testing on many patients over decades, that makes you an expert. So when people say, "Who taught you, Dr. Deagle?" We got Dr. Bob. "Who taught you, Dr. Deagle?" And I said, well, I would say Dr. Me taught it. I was being curious, and that's the same thing with Dr. Bob Dennis. He was a skeptical scientist who went through research at NASA on stem cells, and over decades discovered that specific signals can actually make your cells get the right signal to regenerate, to turn off inflammation and disease or pain, to stimulate stem cells to heal, and stimulate genetic expression, which is just amazing. So we talk about this idea of signal and substance. Dr. Bob, tell us more about your research and this new A9A device that's now at this amazing price, literally $1,000 less than the SomaPulse just last year, with a more advanced technology. And with our $30 saving, if they use the code DRDeagle, Dr. Deagle, they're going to get literally a device at under $400. It's just remarkable. Tell us all about it.
Well, we've had a good conversation going on here, and I really think it does boil down to signal plus substance. It's really pretty straightforward. And if you don't have the right signal, things just won't work very well. They may be a little bit better. And the same thing's true if you don't have the right substance. By that we mean the building blocks and other, molecules that are necessary.
Right.
You're missing either of these two things, it's just not optimal. So, there's been a lot of research on substance. You've got a lot of great products. But I think the real way to, sort of knock the ball out of the park is to have both signal and substance. And the signal really is the A9A technology. That's about 20 years more advanced than what we had at NASA because, I've been working on it for about 20 years.
Right.
So,
well, in fact, I'll give you an example. I had a gentleman, I mentioned this earlier. I get a major broadcaster who in Christian radio in Texas, and he's quite sick now with liver failure. He was diabetic, and I won't mention his full name. His first name is David. People might actually have heard his voice. They know who he is because he's very famous. And I got a call to help consult to try to help him. He's literally at home hospice now, dying, because he doesn't qualify for a liver transplant. And so what I'm going to do is combine the power of ones: oxygen, home hyperbaric oxygen therapy, our Nutrimeds to get the right substance in, and a micropulse put over his liver to stimulate the anti-inflammatory effects, to stimulate the epigenetic stimuli, to stimulate the stem cells to start regenerating his liver function. And I'm going to refer him to Nutrimedical, which makes the stem cell lines in San Diego at their research facility, the top in the world, and to go to the Santa Clarita Clinic in Tijuana, Mexico to get the stem cells. But he needs the micropulse. And if he literally wears that micropulse over his liver all day long, along with getting all these other treatments, he's going to get well. Now, you can do the same thing over somebody that has kidney problems. They have a post-traumatic brain injury. Let's say they've been in a pugilist as a fighter, like, Pacquiao, the fighter that was on the weekend, or Mayweather, who's probably not hit very many times because he's such a good defensive fighter. But if you're in a contact sport, if you've been hit in the head with a car accident, and by the way, there's certain genetics that make you predisposed to the post-traumatic we call BOF or brain on fire. I can actually tell you which genes are present in someone if they're in a contact sport, if they're likely to get an upregulation of microglial inflammatory cytokines. And people say, no, you can't do that, Daigle. Yes, I can, actually. I can give you the imaging studies, the organic acids, and the other tests to prove to you, and the genetic polymorphisms to tell you if you're at risk. Now, the thing is, when you use micropulse, you're literally putting signal in to make the body get a higher signal-to-noise ratio, so now the stem cells are saying, hey, I know what to do. I can do this. And then you have the substance, the Nutrimed's present. You got the stem cells present from Nutrimedical. You got the mild hyperbaric oxygen, so the fuel is ready to burn through the tissues to heal. And the body says, hey, I got 2 to 5% good stem cells in my bone marrow, but I'll make that 20% and I'll get them to the target tissue. Now the target tissue is saying, hey, I got signal here. Let's start healing. So tell us how it works. Well, how do you think the polar magnetic Schumann resonance fields signal the DNA? How do they do it?
Well, we do have a fair amount of data from the original NASA studies on the effects of very specific types of magnetic fields and their effect on stem cells. And it's not just a simple effect. It's really quite complicated. We did, back in the late 90s, in the early days of gene profiling and showing gene expression over vast numbers, thousands of different genes, each classed into, different types of genes. Were they, pro-inflammatory? Were they pro-growth? Were they coding for extracellular matrix? And, you could have clusters of genes that would be involved in each of these functions. And what we found were several very interesting things. First of all, you have to have the right type of magnetic signal. And by type of magnetic signal, what I mean is we didn't really see anything at all with fixed DC magnets. Now, that's not to say that fixed magnets don't have some biological
We're going to break. We'll be right back.
Think they do.
We'll continue for a few minutes. We did track down. I'm going to continue, actually, believe it or not, we're going to bring you over back in 15 minutes at the top of the hour because I want to continue this discussion. Can we get you back? And come back. We have Tom Strader from MG12. Tom, it is literally, if I was going to put a tagline below magnesium, I'd say it's a Dead Sea miracle.
Yes. I agree.
It is a Dead Sea miracle. And for example, we just talked about this yesterday, about how important it is. We have a lady who, for example, started on MG12 topically, and just taking that alone started to reverse her atrial fibrillation. Now, I can tell you the typical story I get, and I get them literally every second day. Somebody in a panic, and they call me, my doctor wants to do cardioversion. And I said, really? Well, that's going to give you 50 joules, which is not 400 joules if you have full cardiac rest. But if your body doesn't have adequate levels of magnesium, do you think that cardioversion is going to take? Of course not. Or they're going to do something that even the FDA doesn't certify. They're going to do cardio ablation of different conduction pathways in your heart to stop reentrant rhythms causing atrial fibrillation. And guess what the treatment is? It is magnesium, the mineral of life. And now what I mean by the mineral of life, without magnesium in the center of chlorophyll, all the green plants on Earth and the phytoplankton and the benthic layer of the oceans could not grow anything on the planet. It's magnesium that turns sunlight into plant food and the food for animals. And magnesium inside your cells, there are 10,000 ions of magnesium for every one calcium ion. It's only allowed through an ion channel, and literally the cells, if they're healthy, kick the magnesium out. If your ion channels get damaged, you're in trouble. And that's why we need things like gamma E+, and things to repair the ion channels like Nutrifos, etc., omega fatty acids like omega supreme krill with astaxanthin to protect them. But if you don't have the magnesium and also the other trace minerals with it, you're in serious hot water. There's 300 enzymes in the body that require magnesium. And I tell people that, there's dozens of minerals present in MG12 topically that are not even in our food. So in fact, when you take MG12, there are some trace minerals that are not going to be in your food that you eat when you eat even organic veggies here in America, tomatoes, peppers, whatever, because they kill the soil, the fixing bacteria aren't there, and they've depleted those minerals that were present. So most of the soil in America, 97% depleted of selenium, chromium, molybdenum, etc. And people wonder why they're unhealthy. Without minerals, there's no K-Max, there's no gene induction. So when you start taking it, and I call the MG12 products, I call the Sabbath Rest Miracle Supplements. And the reason is the Sabbath rest was to rest the land so the fixing bacteria could remineralize, because God wanted his people to be healthy. So the part of the reason with the command by God to rest the land, and which is why it says in the Bible that the Israelites were spewed out of the land for a length of time for the Sabbaths they did not keep, was because the Sabbath rest was to remineralize the soil to keep the optimal health of the people, physically and spiritually. Pretty significant, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. You know, Dr. Bill, if you look at magnesium chloride, and the minerals that are in the Dead Sea are the most unique blend of minerals on the face of the planet. You can also use the MG12 products, the salts, and also the magnesium oil to put into your garden. And it puts the soil alive again. And that's the thing about, as you said earlier, you cannot live without magnesium. The plants cannot live without magnesium. We cannot live without magnesium. It's the most vital mineral that we have in our body. Without magnesium, calcium just runs rampant in our bodies, causing calcium deposits, causing plaque buildup in our arteries, calcification of the organs, the heart muscle, which is your major muscle. If it doesn't have enough magnesium and it has too much calcium, it constricts in spasms and cramps, causing heart attacks. And Dr. Bill, you and I have talked about this several times, about the heart attack that I had at age 40 when the doctor told me, he said, your heart spasmed and cramped in a small artery on the backside of the heart. I'd been doing a lot of physical exercise. I ran about every other day, several miles at a time, and I was depleting my body of a lot of vital minerals and did not know it. And when I was having all those cramps within my body and spasms, it led up to eventually that my heart spasmed and cramped. And when I went into the emergency room, first thing they started after I showed VTAC on the monitor was a magnesium drip. And you can take it from there.
Well, you know, the magnesium, I was one of the original researchers that put magnesium in the ACLS protocol worldwide. In 1978, I was a resident in family internal medicine at the University of Calgary, and I went and I get tired of working in emergency and having people arrest on me and not coming back. So I went back to being a little manic. I went to the library all night long for weeks, having worked in the ICU, and I said, I'm going to research this, and I found out Texas A&M had done research on heart ligation studies where they ligate the arteries. Then did a pathological exam of the hearts and found out they had magnesium depletion. So I said to the head pharmacist, give me some magnesium. And so when I was on call in the emergency department, I was giving subclavian or direct intracardiac injections, and I got people back from torsade de pointe, full cardiac arrest, and hypothermic injury that nobody else could get back. And then I contacted Eisenberg in the research facility in Seattle, Washington, University of Washington, and he said, we're going to present all this stuff now, Deagle, to our International Academy of Cardiac Surgeons, that we want to incorporate it in the protocol. So it's my work, along with other doctors, that incorporated magnesium into the protocol to save people worldwide from magnesium depletion. And when you get older, you're losing magnesium at a faster rate. In fact, the best way, if you wanted to have one measure of stress in the body, you'd measure the magnesuria. In other words, if you measure the number of, if you have a 24-hour urine collection, and you measure someone's magnesium, it'll parallel with the free radical load in their urine. It'll parallel the stress, whether it's emotional stress, physiological stress, financial stress, radiological stress from radiation. Magnesium is the stress mineral, and if you're stressed, you need to put more magnesium in, and if you don't, when you get depleted, your mitochondria generate free radicals like sparks that destroy your cells, shut off your genes, causing aging and organ senescence, and things like spasm, like muscle cramps, or heart attacks and strokes. So it's not a minor thing. If you have a buffer, Dr. Russell Blaylock discovered this, if you have a buffer and give hypermagnesemia treatment by intravenous to people who have a post-traumatic brain injury, a contra coup injury, or a spinal cord compression, you don't get gliosis of the cord, you don't get intracranial hypertension, you don't get post-meningioma surgery, intracranial hypertension and swelling of the brain that can cone their pons and brain stems through the foramen magnum and kill them on the spot in the ICU. So I'm enraged that doctors don't get this. And by the way, when they measure Even serum magnesiums, it's not accurate enough. The next level up is to measure packed red cell magnesium levels, and even more accurate is the QRMA and 8D-LRIS, or an actual organ biopsy by a pathologist and using nuclear magnetic spectroscopy. So if you're a real scientist and you say, well, I need to do a brain biopsy or heart biopsy, that's the only way to be certain. But the QRMA is the next level up above a packed red cell mineral level. Serum magnesium, it drops below 1.1 milligram per deciliter. Guess what happens? Your heart stops. So your body will rob Peter to pay Paul because it's that important. Amazing, isn't it?
Yes. Dr. Bill, I tell you, we have so many people calling in and with testimonials of what the product is doing in their lives. And, you know, there's so many people that we hear from that have restless legs at night, or they're having cramps in their feet or their legs, and they can't, and it's waking them up. And you and I both know that's one of the direct deficiencies that we find if we're deficient in magnesium, is that some of the symptoms is muscle cramps and restless legs and spasms, muscle twitches. I used to have my left eye would twitch and quiver, and I thought, what's going on with my eyelid? Had the same thing with the facial muscle that would quiver, and my left bicep would quiver as well. And it was once I started taking the magnesium, all that ceased. And the topical use is the most effective way for us to get the magnesium chloride into our system, plus the 20 plus essential minerals in your Dead Sea that go directly into the bloodstream and right into the intercellular level. They do not have to go through the digestive tract, where most minerals go through the digestive tract and are not absorbed into the body. These are ionic minerals that go directly into our system, and that's the difference between topical magnesium therapy and oral. And to see the results that we're getting sometimes, it just amazes me that the testimonials that we keep getting on the product. So this
and we're collaborating on some new advancements. In fact,
you yourself.
Yeah. Well, one of the things we're working on is I'm working and collaborating on a project to further, a product for super mineralizing your soil. I'm sure because you have the base materials are amazing.
Yes.
And the other is to further advance the sport formula as well. So we're working on that. These are amazing. I tell people, you're taking Nutrimeds for the inside, you got to take MG12 for the outside. If you're listening to my advice, you're going to do it every day. Use the whole cosmetic line, from the shampoo to the soap to the bath oils to the underarm deodorant, and it will transform your life. Take it today, MG12, the Sabbath minerals, the miracle healing from your skin to the